Good morning to each and every one of you. Thank you for joining me today. I'm James with Fiery Faith, and I'm so blessed to be back to have a message for you. We had a wonderful Shavuot set-apart time, a small gathering. We lifted up prayers and needs and really prayed for the Ruach to dwell upon us, that the revival could happen within our community, our called out assemblies, and especially within each and every one of us. It's so important to take that time to sincerely and genuinely seek Yah and what He has in store for you. Each and every person is different and unique, and His purpose will tailor to your needs. Whatever it is that you're seeking, let it be known to Him, and that He will reveal what He created you to be. And it could be a gift that you didn't even realize you had or that you were capable of. I think that has happened to many of us when we truly surrender and give our lives to Him and ask for His will to be done, saying, Hineni, here am I, send me. That opens the door for amazing new opportunities. And I think that is truly what Yah is waiting for us to say. He wants to hear that. He wants to feel the desire coming from our heart to truly serve and worship Him. And that's what this is all about. This is what the life is about, is obeying Him, being an example, showing that to others, leading others to the narrow path, to salvation, because that's what we're seeking. It's not going to be here in this life, but it is waiting for the righteous. That is the reward to come one day. And we long to hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant. We want to be welcomed into His kingdom, to dwell for eternity with Him and His Son, Yahusha, who gave His life, who gave everything He had to serve and follow His Father as He walked as a man. So thank you for being here. We're blessed to have another week. Amazing things are happening, and we trust Yah that He is providing and making a way. He's splitting the sea, so to speak, in our lives when we're maybe in a difficult path or crossroads with a decision in our personal life, maybe work-related, whatever it may be. Maybe we're struggling with health issues. He knows a way, and He's guiding you through that way. And that's really what inspired my discussion today. Of course, we're going to be talking about this aspect in this week's Torah portion, the cloud by day, fire by night. And really, to Yashar'el, it was everything, and it was likely more than we even realize. There was so many different aspects to the cloud and the fire that followed them, that led them and guided them, and ultimately protected them in the wilderness. But we know before Yashar'el ever entered the promised land, they first had to learn how to live beneath the covering of Yahuah in a barren wilderness where there was no natural path, no visible roadmap, and no certainty about tomorrow. The cloud became everything. It was their direction when they did not know where to go. It was their protection beneath the burning sun. It was the visible reminder that Yahuah Himself was dwelling among them. And that reminder wasn't just for the people of Yah, it was for the surrounding nations to know that they had an Elohim above all that was fighting for them, that was guiding them and protecting them. Every moment of their lives depended upon the cloud. If the cloud rested, they rested. If the cloud moved, they moved. Their journey was no longer governed by personal ambition or comfort, even fear or human timing, but by complete dependence upon the presence of Yah. Today, many are exhausted because they are running ahead of the cloud. They are striving in places where Yahuah never told them to go. but the wilderness teaches a deeper lesson. The safest place for the believer is not the easiest place. It is the place where the presence of Yahuah remains. Faith is not merely the courage to move forward. It is also the surrender to remain still beneath the cloud until Yahuah directs your steps. So this morning, let's examine whether we are truly living under His covering or merely asking Him to bless our own direction. There's a big difference, but I think sometimes people can confuse the two, or they convince themselves that maybe what I want is what Yah wants for me as well. If I ask, I shall receive, and to an aspect that is correct, but He's not just going to hand you a genie lamp and for you to make wishes. He knows your path and He has a purpose for you. And as long as you stay within those boundaries, He has many blessings to provide you. But of course, the cloud for Yashar'el was covering and direction, but also protection. The cloud did more than guide them geographically. It shielded them from the harsh wilderness. We don't necessarily know what it was like living in the desert. Some of us may know what that is like. Of course, very hot and dry during the day, but also very cold at night. There wasn't much shelter, I'm sure. Nothing stopping the wind. So there was a lot of elements that they had to endure throughout these 40 years. And of course, there were season changes, some probably warmer and drier and some colder. I mean, they very likely even dwelt with snow. I don't know if that's the case, but it's very possible. Dealt with drought, rain. There was all different elements that they had to endure. And I'm sure sometimes it was a blessing and sometimes it felt like a curse. The cloud also marked them as belonging to Yahuah. It separated them from the nations around them. And we want that separation as well. We are called to be set apart and peculiar, not belonging to the world, not following what the world upholds. So by staying underneath that cloud, we can be separated as well. The cloud here represents covering, protection, also guidance and intimacy with Yah, and dependence. To be set apart, we have to be dependent on Yah and ourselves, because the walk is pretty lonely. It is narrow. There aren't that many people on it at times, especially in our own personal circle. We may find ourselves the only one walking it out. Now, we're so thankful for brothers and sisters that we can meet with in person, and especially here online in this community with this Fiery Faith ministry, because without that, it would feel very lonely for even Lee and I. And we're so thankful for all the love from the brothers and sisters that we have here, that we have met through this journey, and that we're going to continue to meet. Without the cloud, they were exposed to many different things, to the elements, to the surrounding nations. Today, many people want promise without covering. They want it now. They want it quick and fast, without question. They want destiny without surrender. And they want movement without waiting upon Yahuah. This society, this generation is very impatient because we're used to the fast food industry. We're used to instant transfers and gigabyte downloads. Yah doesn't work in that time frame. His timing is much different than ours. And we must long suffer. We must endure. We must be patient for when He is ready to move, when He is ready to speak. If we're not waiting and listening, we very well may miss the call. But the remnant must learn again to live under the cloud. It's so important to understand where we belong and where it is safest to be. Of course, the cloud over the Mishkan was not merely a sign in the sky. It was the visible evidence that Yahuah desired to dwell among his people. The wilderness was transformed because his presence was there. I love that thought, to think that if he is dwelling with us, our very lives also will be transformed just by his presence. Yashar'el did not survive because they were strong or organized or even prepared. They left in a moment's notice. They survived because they stayed beneath the covering of Yahuah. His presence became their shelter, their direction, and life. Sometimes the deepest expression of faith is not rushing ahead into action, but remaining still beneath the covering of Yah until he says move. And that is such an important thing for us to learn and to understand and to follow. The cloud forced them to trust daily. Yashar'el could not create their own schedule because sometimes the cloud stayed for a day, sometimes for a month, and sometimes even longer. So imagine setting up camp, becoming comfortable. Then suddenly the trumpet sounds and the cloud moves, and it's time to move on. Or imagine being ready to move emotionally, but the cloud does not lift. I'm sure there was various stops along the way, those 40 years. That was not an ideal location. It wasn't a comfortable spot, or people were just ready to pack up and get to the next destination. But if Yah did not see it fit, it did not happen. And so for our lives as well, if Yah is not ready for us to take the next step, don't force it. Don't make it happen. Because ultimately, if we run off without the cloud, we're leaving our stability and our protection behind. And this is where many believers struggle today. We often want immediate answers, instant breakthrough, and quick direction. You know, GPS has gotten us spoiled. If we take a wrong turn, it won't stop until we get back on track, alerting us, turn around, make a U-turn, wrong way. You know, it wants us to get back on track quickly. And so we have been spoiled to that type of resource. We don't always have that instant understanding, wisdom. We may not be hearing Yah's word at the time we're ready for a direction change, but that's because he's not ready for us to take it. So let's keep listening and keep waiting. But Yah teaches trust is in the waiting. The cloud trained them to depend on his timing rather than their feelings. And I think Psalm 46:10 may explain this better than any other verse out there. When we're ready for a change, ready to move, asking why, say this verse, be still and know that I am Elohim. That's everything we need to know. Even Yahusha told the waters to be still when they were roaring and about to overcome the boat. Be still and know that I am Elohim. That's just such a calming statement to know that he is in control and that he is guiding our ship or our feet in the wilderness, whichever analogy you want to use. Of course, the cloud was more than guidance. It shielded Yashar'el from the harsh wilderness and marked them as belonging to Yahuah. Without the cloud, they were exposed. Of course, many want those promises, the calling, and the blessings without surrendering to the covering of Yahuah. But outside his presence, confusion and striving begin to grow. The safest place for the believer is underneath the cloud where the presence of Yahuah rests. Remaining under the cloud meant surrendering control. The wilderness exposed human impatience. Every time Yashar'el resisted the leading of Yahuah, chaos followed. And I have to believe that the same is true for us today. Those people living a life without the Most High, without seeking Him and His guidance, counsel, their life is going to be chaotic. The same is true spiritually. Outside the cloud, you find confusion growing. The flesh takes control. Fear increases and striving begins. But when we stay underneath the cloud or return to it, peace returns. Identity is restored and direction becomes clear. Even if we don't actually know where we're headed, Yah's direction is revealed. And Yahusha modeled this perfectly. John 5:19 says, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. We are nothing without Yah. Without Yahusha, we can do nothing great of our own. We must rely on him each and every day. Yahusha never moved independently from the Father's will. He lived completely under the covering and the direction of heaven. The cloud in the wilderness foreshadowed the life of total obedience that Yahusha walked. And I saw a very cool connection here with the Mount of Transfiguration reading in Matthew 17:5. While he yet spoke, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. I'm seeing a direct connection all the way back to the cloud in the wilderness. And we know that Yahusha was leading them through the wilderness as well. He was the rock that provided nourishment, water. Very interesting, but of course, just another connection that we can find. They had to surrender their timing to Yah. Obedience meant moving when he moved and remaining still when he remained still. Human nature wants control. We prefer predictable plans and immediate answers, but the cloud trained Yashar'el themselves. And even though the cloud may have stayed for days, months, or even years, the waiting itself became part of the refining process. Yahuah was teaching his people patience and trust and surrender. Waiting exposes what is truly in the heart. It reveals whether we desire Yahuah himself or simply the next destination and blessing. Delayed movement does not mean abandoned purpose. Sometimes Yahuah keeps us still because intimacy must grow before destiny can be entrusted. The cloud and the Ruach HaKodesh. The cloud over the Mishkan parallels the indwelling presence of the Ruach HaKodesh. In the wilderness, we saw the cloud rested over the tabernacle. But today, the presence of Yahuah desires to rest upon surrendered hearts. Know ye not that ye are the temple of Elohim? 1 Corinthians 3:16. Yahuah is wanting to dwell in the temple again. That temple is our body. It is a sacred place. We must keep it clean without defiling it, profaning it, because we know what happened throughout history when the temple, when the sacrificial place was defiled. Yahuah could not remain there and dwell. The question becomes, are we sensitive to his movement? Can we discern when Yahuah is telling us to move, to wait, to speak, or to be silent, to build up or to tear down, to go forward or remain still? These are all commands that we will receive from Yah in his time. We must be in tune. We must be seeking him in order to get these instructions correctly in his timing. The mature believer learns to follow the cloud instead of chasing emotion. Because whenever Yashar'el rebelled against the order and timing of Yahuah, confusion and destruction followed. The flesh always creates chaos outside his covering. The world teaches people to follow emotions, trends, ambition, and self-will. But the wilderness teaches us to follow only the presence and the voice of Yahuah. So if we're listening to the world, we're being influenced by it and letting it guide our direction, we will find a life of chaotic. There are many today chasing spiritual excitement without true surrender. They desire fire without obedience, but the fire of Yahuah only rests where his order is honored. And we must remember that Yahusha never acted independently from the Father. Every miracle, every word, and every movement flowed from complete submission to Yah's will. He did that as an example for us. Why would we want to do it any different than the Son of the Most High, who was perfect? Let's follow him. The cloud in the wilderness foreshadowed the life of Yahusha in so many ways. Fully led, fully surrendered, fully obedient. And he modeled what it means to walk under divine covering. We must be careful because culture now celebrates independence, but heaven celebrates surrender. The strongest life is the life completely yielded to Yah. And today the Ruach HaKodesh desires to dwell within surrendered hearts that become living temples. Being led by the Ruach is more than emotional experiences. It is learning sensitivity to the voice of Yahuah in daily decisions, attitudes, speech, and direction. We learn discernment and move according to the leading of the Ruach HaKodesh. That is what the Spirit allows us to do. It is our guide, our advocate, our comforter. While Yahusha is waiting to return, the Ruach is what will be with us and will help us on our journey. The cloud was a witness to the nations. Imagine the surrounding nations seeing a supernatural cloud by day and a fire by night. Yashar'el was visibly different. The covering of Yahuah made them distinct. And we are called to be that as well. Different, distinct, peculiar, you name it, however you want to word it. That's what we're called to be. That's what set apart is. Likewise, today, the remnant should look different from the world. We should represent peace in chaos, light in the darkness, obedience in compromise, and humility in pride. Being set apart is what you get through that. Being in the world is what you're left with there. The cloud still marks his people today. And we must continue to remain under it and follow it when it moves. Because many today are running ahead of the cloud. Some are building ministries Yahuah never commanded. Some are chasing revival without repentance. Some want fire without surrender. But the true remnant is returning to the wilderness pattern, which consists of waiting, listening, obeying, and moving only at his command. The cloud is not merely about guidance, it is about relationship. Yahuah did not simply want to bring his people somewhere. He wanted to teach them how to remain near him. Numbers 9:22 from our Torah portion this week. Or whether it was 2 days or a month or a year that the cloud tarried upon the tabernacle, remaining thereon, the children of Yashar'el abode in their tents and journeyed not, but when it was taken up, they journeyed. And that's a simple lesson and reminder for us today, is to follow Yah, whether he stays put, whether he has us stay put, or whether he leads us into the unknown. It takes great faith and courage to make those movements, those decisions for our life. Sometimes there's other family members involved in these decisions. Our well-being, our finances, our safety, job security. But Yah has all of that planned out for us. So let's continue to follow him in all of our ways. The wilderness was never about only reaching the promised land. It was about learning relationship, dependence, and trust in the one leading them. Some seasons still feel still because the cloud has not moved yet. But do not mistake stillness for abandonment. Yahuah often does his deepest work in waiting seasons. In these last days filled with noise and deception, the safest place is still beneath the covering of Yahuah. So we must stay close to his presence, sensitive to his voice, and willing to move only when he moves. And we must remember that the Spirit of Yahuah is not only for moments of worship or gatherings like this. His presence is meant to walk with us daily, in the quiet moments, in the struggles, in the decisions we make, and in the way we treat others. His Spirit desires to guide us continually. A constant reminder. The days ahead may grow darker, but darkness has never overcome the light of Yahuah. Even a small flame can be seen from far away in the night, and Yahuah is raising people who are willing to carry that light with faithfulness and courage. May we leave today with renewed vision, renewed strength, and renewed purpose. May our heart remain sensitive to the voice of the Ruach. May compassion replace bitterness, boldness, replace fear, and obedience replace compromise. And whenever Yahuah places us, wherever he places us, in our homes, our workplace, assemblies, or communities, may his Spirit flow through us so others can see the hope of Yahusha HaMashiach. Isaiah 60 verse 1, arise, shine, for your light is come, and the glory of Yahuah is risen upon you. May the breath of Yahuah continue to stir within us long after today, until every part of our lives reflect his kingdom and glory. Amen. Hallelujah. For his protection, his promises, his provisions. We're so thankful for them all, each and every one of them. We're so thankful for his words, the instruction that keeps us on track. He is our GPS. And when we get lost, he's out there like a searchlight looking to find us, to bring us back home. Thank you everyone for joining. Shalom and blessings to you all. Have a wonderful day.